Hey, it has been a while. I had been taking a break from the internet even though I had played online games because I can't really avoid the bustle of multiplayer games. It's mostly just me cutting communication temporarily so I can focus on myself. Lots of movement, lots of gaming, and basically doing the things that makes me happy. And heck, even me learning Blender as well. Of course, I can't forget about my college life, and I'm currently in my sophomore year. I sometimes had to do a lot of things in a single day to the point that I had to skip out all the fun things. But hey, at least the burden where I'll have to finish ICSS is finally over. But at what cost? Well, I gained weight, my mental health felt like it deteriorated, and I ended up not spending time with family that much. All that just for me to work on a single game so I can finally retire from the community. I do have to work on 2.2.1 as well, which is the final minor update for ICSCS. Afterwards, it's just gonna be bug fixes here and there. I know that the game will die out eventually next year, but if I wanted to keep a game alive and thriving for years to come, it should be something that I'm passionate about, not something that I do not really like working on. Sure, there's still some flaws here and there about my game, but it's definitely the best reactor game that I have ever made. Even though there's Internal Corporation Computer Core, the grand finale, which showcases my journeys in the reactor community. I do still watch the videos people make about my game, and that really makes me happy, seeing the support that I had been getting. What will be in 2.2.1 though? Well, let's say it's for people who did the true ending, as well as some changes. With that out of the way, what's next for me? First and foremost, by 2025, the channel will have a shift in direction, and it won't be reactor centric anymore, though I'll still announce bug fix updates to ICSCS from time to time. Don't worry, even after this shift in direction, the original soundtrack will still be up for people to listen. I wanted to do things that not only makes me happy, but also you guys happy as well. I do plan to get back to streaming once again, though the scheduling is irregular as I had to focus on stuff most of the time. Also, while people had been coming to my channel just to listen to the original soundtrack for Singularity Containment Site, I think that my original music that I put out in my channel is pretty underrated compared to the original soundtracks. I do have unreleased music that I used in my streams, but I'll put it out for everyone to listen at some point. I do plan to design new branding for 2025, which is my tradition every year, but it won't be like any branding that I had ever done. It'll be focusing less on the professional side and more on the having fun side. My Discord server will be the first to receive it, and looking at it now, it does look outdated. Mind you, they were back in 2021. Speaking of my Discord server, I do plan to do some renovations to the server as well as redo several things such as the rules, the role info, and other things that I can't think of at the moment. Maybe I'll get to work once my break is over. For ICSS updates, that will stay, maybe till ICSS finally stops development for good. But still, I'll treat it as a hobby now since it isn't my main source of income. But it's something that I like to do and for my fans and outsiders to enjoy. I also wanted to stream what I had been up to in the future and have a talk with you guys as well. At the time of saying this, I'm still focusing on myself, getting myself back on track and such. Anyways, this game idea has been lingering in my mind for months already. After I had done Singularity Containment Site, I do want to make another game on Roblox, though I gotta find the right time to do so. Things had been hectic lately as of right now. Do not worry, the game will barely even have any Robux transactions involved. It will just be donations and such. No pay to win either, otherwise the game would get boring real quick. I know, developers would have to try to find ways to monetize their work somehow, but I do not think adding pay to win features is really the way to go. The game will definitely be single player, and the building style will be minimal and kinda cartoony, kind of like what Lab Experiment uses. The reason why I wanted the game to be single player is that I personally do not like player versus player games. I wanted to make a game where it's up to the player to do things without any second or more players' interference. And I also wanted to go for a building style that is charming to the eyes, but not too simple. Like, yeah. I intend for the game to focus on giving players to interact with things and make them feel like they're making progress instead of having to run and avoid monsters in some maze. I gotta admit, horror games aren't my thing. The game can be linear though, kind of like non-Roblox games, which could hurt the replay value, so of course I gotta do something about it. Right now, I can't really do so considering that I do not have time for it yet. As for core games, I'm probably not going to make another one due to Roblox's discovery system and the reasonings I had stated in my announcement of me leaving the community. It's an easy type of game to make, sure, but having it replayable is the hard part. After you had seen everything that the game has to offer, there's not much incentive to continue playing. Singularity Containment Site does fall into that category, I gotta admit. I can at least update the game to keep it afloat, but I sadly won't be adding anything more in it due to my lack of interest. I gotta double down on the discovery system, where apparently games that took less efforts or didn't break any boundaries got popular instead, like how Fall Guys got outshined by Stumble Guys, where it's just a clone of the former but with gambling added to it. Okay, maybe that implies that all of the core games are clones, but if I were to make a new game in the future, I plan for it to be one of a kind, something that inspires people. And yeah, I think Roblox does need to up their discovery system, probably based off how long the game took to build, and I mean actively. And also the lines of code and not some random garbage in the scripts, and also maybe keep track of how many free models are in the game. I think it's more socially correct for me to focus on growing my engagement instead of my revenue, and I'm keeping it that way. The system is pretty unpredictable at times, I gotta say. If this ever comes to fruition, I would only do it as a hobby and not full-time, just like what I did with ICSS, in which I had a reason to push myself through that. Can't forget about DevX though. Doesn't look like something to take on full-time or replace careers in real life, for me at least. I would use that for miscellaneous expenses. I could make pay-to-win things and such, but that's not what I'm proud of. Having players to spend Robux just to access a specific paywall feature. I only cared about players having fun. Roblox does have a robust game creation tool though, although I'll be using Blender from time to time for measures that I can't really make with units alone. So after all that rambling, I had been working on a musical project that deviates from what I usually produce. While I mostly produce electronic songs, there's this one project that reflects the personal side of me, and it's mostly going to be poppy sounding. And yeah, most of the songs that I plan to put into this project will mostly have vocals. There's just a few electronic songs here and there, but it will mostly be pop. But of course, not like the mainstream pop where it has monotone beats that I hear in most pop songs nowadays. I also had been working on an album since 2023 for this project, but I had to put it on hold later on because of Singularity Containment Site's development. Now that it's finally done, I started to work on this album once again, and it's personally my favorite album that I have ever written in my musical journey. You may either love it or hate it because of my vocals in there, but if it's your thing, go ahead. Though I'm more proud of the instrumentals that I had made. I may introduce the project once it's my birthday, though I did create 2 remixes and 1 original song there. Speaking of my birthday, the Remix V5 will be the final remix. I do not feel like worrying about having to create a remix of the same song every single year, and it does take time to do so. And finally, there's some unreleased stuff that I actually made for that project that you heard in my streams. Some of them are actually composed for this album, fun fact. And that brings us to the end of this video. This goes to show that I feel happier to do things without the need to worry about my game or be associated to the reactor community. Instead, it's something that I'm really passionate about and what makes me happy in general, and I hope it does to you too. Really relieved to get that weight off my chest after I left the community, as it had been putting a lot of pressure on me. You guys are free to enjoy what you have right now, but I'll miss you guys in the reactor community. This does mean that it's the beginning of a new chapter for me, and you're welcome to follow along. I can't force anyone to be a part of it, of course. I won't be mad if you decide to unsubscribe or leave my server because of this decision. That's fine. Considering that we have different interests, I'm probably not going to delve deep into reactor conversations that much or join drama discussions. Don't worry, I'll be back on the internet in a few days. I'm not sure if I'm going to expect people welcome me back or not, but I do miss the times where there's a lot going on while I'm around. I'll also be balancing internet with real life as well, so do not expect me to be very active at first. Of course, I also do want to do streams, whether it's by myself or with someone else or with viewers like you. I still wanted to entertain my audience in one way or another as well. Anyways, that wraps it up for this video. I'll see you again in a few days. And yep, taking a break from the internet does make me feel better physically and mentally. Not sure what will my server look like after coming back though, but I'm hoping that it's going fine so far. This is Donut2, signing off.